Welcome back. You're watching Business Center on Metropole TV, and we go right into the discussion as today we are speaking about donkey farming in Kenya, and I have Josiah Ojwang, the program manager for Animal Network Africa and Network for Animal Protection, will be speaking to us about the donkey farming in the country. Karibu sana Josiah, how are you this morning?
Thank you so much, Victoria, and thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm well and happy to speak with you.
Great. Let's go right into it. With the animal welfare protection here in the country, you've been rallying behind donkey farming in the country. What is the state of donkey farming here in Kenya at the moment?
Yeah, thanks again, and allow me, earlier on you mentioned Tunza Punda. The program was actually Tunza Punda Kutunze, and nowadays we say Tunza Punda Daima, and I work with the African Network for Animal Welfare, and we are working with Brook East Africa to support matters of donkey welfare in Kenya. In terms of the status of donkey welfare, at the moment, what I would want to state in terms of statistics is that donkey population in Kenya, officially we use the 2009 statistics, whereby the statistics reveal that we have 1.8 million donkeys in Kenya. However, we do know that, and we actually strongly suspect that this has changed. We are waiting for the latest statistics for last year's census from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. You remember they released for the human population, but we're yet to get the one for the livestock. We do think that the numbers have gone down considerably because of the donkey slaughter that has been going on in the country in the last 4 or so years. So, whereas we go by government figures, so I cannot authoritatively quote a figure, but there are unpublished reports which indicate that the numbers could have gone down to up to 600,000 donkeys as at now. So in terms of figures, that is what they are. In terms of donkey welfare, at the moment, we do know that the slaughterhouses have been closed. And again, we're happy this has been due to efforts of very many animal welfare organizations led by Brook East Africa, Donkey Sanctuary, African Network for Animal Welfare. And this has led to communities coming up and petitioning the government. So at the moment, the export of donkeys has been halted in Kenya. And so we believe that this should have given some reprieve to donkey welfare. But again, what we get on the ground is that there are still certain aspects that could be going on that compromise the welfare of donkeys. This could be due to probably theft of donkeys, transportation, use of donkeys as people seek their livelihoods that still compromise their welfare. But again, in terms of slaughter, whereas it has been halted, I would say we are still not very comfortable for those of us in donkey welfare sector, because this has been a very temporary ban. So we do not know for how long this reprieve will last for the donkeys.
And on that point, that brings me to this question. Government banned the commercial slaughterhouses for the donkeys. So then, from what you're saying, so this has not even addressed the donkey crisis in the country?
Yes, the interesting thing, Victoria, is this, that let me make a clarification actually in the legal position. The Meat Control Act classifies the donkey as a food animal in Kenya. So that means that you are allowed to slaughter the donkey for food. Now, what happened is that the investors who came over, most of them Chinese, actually used this law to start slaughtering donkeys, but for the export market, because their main interest is in the skin of the donkey, which they use to make a product known as ejiao. Ejiao is a Chinese traditional medicine, which is in very high demand. So what did happen is that, whereas the minister, the cabinet secretary, Honorable Munya, in February, withdrew the export licenses of these abattoirs, what it means is that they are simply not allowed to slaughter donkeys for export. So in law, actually, Victoria, donkeys can still be slaughtered in Kenya. And that is the kind of conundrum that we do face. Because initially, from a lay perspective, we all thought that donkey slaughter had been banned in Kenya. But a careful reading of the law does indicate that actually the Meat Control Act was never amended or repealed. So anybody would still slaughter donkeys legally. The only difficulty is that they would not get the slaughter license, the export license for exporting the donkey skin and products. So I would say this gave us a bit of comfort, but we are still standing on treacherous ground on this matter, because any investor would still be able to open an abattoir, or even the existing abattoirs would still convert and say that they are slaughtering for the local market if there was demand. Thankfully, we all know that Kenyans don't ordinarily consume donkey meat. So that is the legal position. It wasn't actually banned, because a ban would mean that the law has been repealed and donkey slaughter has been halted as a practice in Kenya. So that explains the legal position. Actually, as we talk, there are communities that are even pursuing legal options to make sure that probably the minister's order is enforced for a longer period of time, so that the donkeys are continually protected. So that is the position at the moment.
So now, with that said, you say that, you know, Kenyans, rather locally, people don't consume donkeys, but you not even know if you're eating a donkey or not, you know, in this time, you know. But then saying that, then what's the mitigation? How do you ensure that even after that ban, then and still we can still see the donkeys being slaughtered in the country, for them that will say this is for not for export but just local consumption? Then how do you mitigate that? You as the animal welfare protection, then how do you mitigate this?
Thanks. At the moment, African Network for Animal Welfare and Brook East Africa and other partners are working on a very strong system that the capacity of the communities that work with donkeys, because donkeys strongly support communities. A lot of communities depend on them for livelihood. That studies by Donkey Sanctuary have shown that some people who are working with donkeys earn 15,000 Kenya shillings per month. A study by Africa last year did indicate that donkeys support livelihoods to the tune of at least 11 a month. So donkeys are a key economic driver in Kenya. So at the moment, African Network for Animal Welfare and Brook East Africa are carrying out a resilience program along the Kenya-Tanzania borders in Narok and Kajiado counties. And this resilience is clearly meant to build the capacities of the donkey owners, number one, in terms of vigilance, so that they are able to monitor the movement of donkeys, which could be vulnerable to illegal slaughter. Allow me to add that last year, Brook East Africa and African Network for Animal Welfare did carry a study along the Kenya-Tanzania border, which indicated from its findings that donkeys were being smuggled across the border from Tanzania to Kenya to supply the slaughterhouses. So whereas this has probably gone down now because of the closure of the abattoirs, we do not know that there could still be underground slaughter of the donkeys. So communities are facilitated and capacity built so that they keep vigil. And number two, we are also building their capacity and networking them with the local law enforcement agencies. For example, the local administration, the national government administration, the assistant chiefs and the chiefs, the local police stations, the Nyumba Kumi initiatives, the county cess officers, so that any donkey movement is monitored to make certain that it is legal and to make certain that it has been authorized by the authorities that are mandated to do so. So this will help them to develop resilience and recover, because a number of them actually lost their donkeys. At the height of the slaughter, the first slaughterhouses were slaughtering about 1,000 donkeys a day. So that explains what I earlier said, that the population of donkeys has clearly plummeted now to the figure that 600,000 that some quarters have mentioned, although as I said, we are yet to confirm that. So with this plummeting of donkey populations, the livelihoods of the donkey-dependent communities have been threatened. And therefore, they must find a way of building their resilience through alternative income and through holding onto the donkeys that they do have, so that they are not exposed to the vagaries of limited resources in their communities.
Mm-hmm. And Josiah, when government allowed for the abattoirs to operate in Kenya to legally slaughter the donkeys, what was the impact of this? Because before then, people didn't have like the donkeys. People knew about the donkeys, yes, but then when the abattoirs were now running legally, what was the impact of this to the donkey farming?
The impact was clear, is that those who kept their donkeys traditionally were using them for water system support, and in the peri-urban areas, areas like, for instance, Ongata or Ngong or Athi River, they are a big source of supplying water to the people living in these areas. So when the abattoirs were fully operational, a few things happened. Number one, the population of donkeys started going down. And interestingly, donkeys started becoming fewer in the communities because there were those who were selling them legally. But another thing that happened is that there was a spike in the theft of donkeys. Suddenly, in many areas where donkeys were mainly Limuru, areas like Ngong, areas like Ongata, Rongai, Kiserian, all the donkey farmers and owners were reporting increased incidents of donkey theft. And with the theft of a donkey, therefore goes the livelihood of a person. So this was in some areas almost getting violent. And so the donkey owners were even forming a sort of vigilante communities or vigil communities to take care of their donkeys. The other thing that happened is that the prices of donkeys skyrocketed so that it was getting out of the reach of the Mwananchi, the people who need them most. What happened is that some big businessmen got interested in having donkeys in lorries, taking them in lorries to supply the slaughterhouses. So when a donkey got stolen, for example, ordinarily in about 2015, 2014, a donkey would go for 6,000 Kenya shillings. But when at the height of the slaughter, about 2017, a donkey had almost doubled and in some cases tripled. Donkeys were going for 18,000 and up to 20,000. And then something also happened because the slaughterhouses were quite interested in the donkey skin. So there were incidents of bush slaughter of donkeys. Donkeys were being skinned, left there dead, and their skins carried off. Because at one point in 2017 and 2018, the donkey skin was even more expensive than a live donkey, Victoria. A donkey skin would go for 18, 20,000, whereas a live donkey would be about 15,000. So this actually changed the donkey ownership and farming dynamics in the country. And it was slowly getting the donkeys out of the reach of those resource-limited communities who actually rely on them for livelihood.
Mm-hmm. And studies have shown that donkeys might be extinct in the next 4 years. You know, like the generation to come will just be hearing, you know, like the dinosaurs, we had dinosaurs. Are you worried about this, and what are you doing to ensure that this does not happen in 4 years?
Yes, that's a critical question and a very pertinent one for us. A study last year by the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization, KALRO, and Brook East Africa indicated that donkeys are growing at only 1.404%, whereas the slaughter rate was about 5%. So the slaughter rate was about 4 times the growth rate of the donkeys. We know scientifically that donkeys are poor breeders. They don't breed as fast as cattle. For instance, a donkey gets a foal within an interval of maybe 3 years. A cow can get a calf every year. And then donkeys are also very poor in terms of uptake of AI. And because of the heavy work they are subjected to, abortions are common among donkeys. So donkeys are fewer in population. So what was happening is that when KALRO and Brook East Africa did this study, it was calculated that if the slaughterhouses, and we thank the minister so much for putting a stop to this, Minister Honorable Munya, we thank him so much for this, because according to this study, if the rate had gone of about 1,000 to 1,200 donkeys being slaughtered per day by the 4 abattoirs, then within the 3, Brook East Africa indicated this would have been a scenario because they reproduce them. So ministers move to thank this will. What we are doing is that at the moment, to the donkeys that they have. Vigil, make sure you don't sell your donkey if you need to. Make sure your donkey is in a place, and make sure that you are law enforcement agencies. So that if the donkey is stolen, then the program Brook East Africa will to trace the donkey. Secondly, we are also actually still government through Africa Network Fund, Brook East Africa, Donkey Sanctuary, and organizations to actually amend the law to bring a complete halt to the slaughter of donkeys. The moment we still allow any form of donkey slaughter, whether for food or for commercial purposes, then I can assure you that the population will continue to be worried. Now, it's working with the communities on their resilience, and we are also appealing to government to bring this to a complete halt.
All right. And Josiah, finally, what do you see as the future of donkey farming in Kenya with all this said and done?
I would want to say that even with all that is happening, I must add, Victoria, that the donkey plays a very critical role in very many households in rural Kenya and also peri-urban centers. Maybe vehicles cannot go in some of contribute to all the 5 capitals we know. I mean, donkeys contribute to human capital, they contribute to physical one, the financial capital. I mean, they bring direct income to people. The social capital, they are used, like payment of bride price and all kinds of things. Even support at least 6 of the SDGs. Look at SDG about having no hunger. I mean, donkeys are directly involved in agriculture. In education, people sell their donkeys or work with and get fees and uniform for their children. They are a source of clean water. Talk about SDG number 5, gender equity. Donkeys are to find empowerment. I mean, a woman gets their income. Clean SDG number 6. When you talk about climate action, SDG number 13. Talk about access to education. They are important. So what I'm as from where we are, regardless of all the issues going around, we still being a very, very resilient, and it will survive all these vagaries, and donkeys will still be there for us. The minister's move has broken this was telling them. Right now, donkeys are regenerating. So I would say that donkeys in nowhere. All I will ask you and us and everybody else is that we the protection of donkeys. So with my support, your support, and everybody else's support, all our it is that depend on them.
All right. That was Josiah Ojwang, the program manager for Africa Network for Animal Welfare, speaking to us about this very important animal, the donkey. Thank you so much, Josiah, for making time for us. We'll definitely keep this conversation going on, and even on our social media platforms, and even another time we'll have more time to talk about this very critical animal, the donkey. Like you mentioned, it has a lot of uses, especially when you mentioned that some people use donkeys for dowry. So I hope my cameraman Tete and my director Richard have done the necessary with the donkeys. So we take a short break on that. When we come back, we'll be telling you how commodities are trading in Nairobi. Don't go anywhere. This is Business Center. I'm Victoria Munga.